Yo, what's up guys? So we're here to showcase off Plant Synchro in Master Rule 2020, aka Master Rule 5. Yo, if you are excited about Plant Synchro returning into the game, yo, drop a like on this video because it can definitely return with this new variant here. So this one is really focusing in on actually using the Junk engine as well as utilizing the Plant engine with the Predator plants. And I think that, well, I really do prefer having like the traditional plant with like Dandelion and stuff. The thing is that's just not that viable in 2020. It's really difficult to kind of play a plant deck where you kind of have the slow pace you set up with the Danny tokens because, well, Dandelion is still banned in the TCG, but nonetheless, it might come off the list, who knows, but nonetheless, this is probably the more optimal way to run it, and you're going to be able to consistently make this board over here where you're going to have a Savage Dragon with double negates, you have a Dragon of Red Eyes with an additional negate, you have the Clear Wing Synchro Dragon with obviously a negate as well, and on top of that, you have an Naturia Beast to basically shut down any Sky Striker variants of decks, unless of course they start out with Dark Really No More. Then at that point, yeah, you probably lose, but that's just the way that certain decks go. Honestly, this deck would be very, very good. Going into a lot of different matchups, I would say most of the time if you are going first, and you also have crossed out Designator, so in the off chance that your opponent even has impermanence, you'll be a-okay to go over here, because that can stop your opponent's hand traps as well. Same thing with like Called, if you want to run Called as well. There's actually two different builds that were in the video. One has Glow Bulb, one doesn't. But nonetheless, I will give you guys the deck profile in a moment here. But just want to give a shout out to Ultimate Token over here. This card is just way too good with the new Master Rule because it just lets you go ahead and make a lot of different things. And if you decide to go ahead and keep this card up on board instead of utilizing it for material, you can actually get the effect of it on your opponent's turn, which we showcased off yesterday with this really broken combo. If you guys haven't checked it out, I'll pin it down below in the comment section below. But what it comes down to is you're able to synchro summon, well, you're basically getting a free level 7 or 8 synchro during your opponent's turn because you can keep on resetting this new trap card over and over and over, and you get to negate your opponent's effects, and it basically is just a blowout card. It kind of is a win harder card because at the end of the day, if you've already gone ahead and made your established synchro board and you're negating something, I feel like impermanence is just better because it's able to, of course, go second, which certain decks, they do lack the ability to go second because obviously against established boards it can be quite difficult. This deck is main decking triple copies of impermanence, so that can definitely help out. It's also running Nibiru to kind of deal with those turn 1 boards, but basically if you're going first and your opponent doesn't happen to have a hand trap, or even if they do, depending on what you have in your hand, specifically like other combo extensions like 1-for-1 can definitely be great as well, but pretty much, you can play through maybe one hand trap. At this point, once you go ahead and make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, you're pretty much good to go. Your opponent can't really use some hand traps, but obviously impermanence will stop that. But with Crossout Designator, you just banish one card with that, whatever that they activated, and you just get to negate that effect anyway. So at that point, this card can technically outclass the Called by the Grave, but it's another great card. Once we get this, as well as the Dragon of Red Eyes here in the TCG with the Predator plant, I think that this deck will be much better. I mean, obviously, still ending with this board, instead of making this, if you go ahead and make another card, maybe with Apollousa with just like, I'd say, probably just getting triple negates off of it, or even double, I think you'd be good to go with the same board. Instead of this being the boss monster that it is, you would actually get more negations through going for Apollousa, which you can easily do in this deck, instead of making this card over here, because this card technically isn't out, but also technically Master Rule 2020 isn't out anyways. But nonetheless, most of these duels are going to be just one person kind of playing here. I will probably do some live commentary while I build my other plant deck. Originally, I wasn't even thinking about using like the Brilliant Fusion engine because, I mean, it is way better, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I wanted more traditional plant with Dandelion, but you can't play that card anymore. So I think this is kind of how Plant Synchro has evolved. We're definitely utilizing Link still, and World Chalice is just way too good not to play because technically it is also Synchro, but it gives you that card that you need with Ultimate Token to go ahead and make Clear Wing, and then from here, you're pretty much good to go on any of your opponent's card effects because you're going to be able to stop them from going off and utilizing their hand traps against you, and then pretty much at this point, unless they're going to go ahead and have technically, you've got extra negations for evenly match in the off chance that they have it. They'd have to like triple card you, which is basically like double evenly, and then you'd still have Dragon of Red Eyes and into maybe their double cards, right? Because you'd have to force your opponent to double negate and then still happen to have like evenly matched, right? Which it would be quite a task, but like I said, we're also playing impermanence, so now if chance that you do go second, you will definitely be able to OTK your opponent if they do not negate everything that you do. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile in case any of you guys do want to go ahead and build it. And like I said, there was one build that did have Glow Bulb and one didn't, so I'm just giving you guys that just as a heads up. And another thing I want to mention that was not in the deck profile, shout out to my boy Stars YGO for hooking me up with the play, because this is his build over here. He didn't actually have 1-for-1, but I highly recommend 1-for-1. It's so great just because you can go ahead and throw in cards into the grave, plus it lets you have a combo extension in the off chance that something gets negated. It is a 41 card or 42 cards, again, with the Magical Mallets. It's definitely worth it. There are a lot of vanillas which you not only don't want to draw, but literally all it comes down to is basically just having a way to access not only junk but your Predaplant engine. Once you go ahead and have those, you're good to go, and you'll be able to establish that board that is very difficult for most decks to go ahead and break. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile. So of course we got the vanillas that you don't want to go ahead and actually have, but you got to play them. And then we've got Nibiru in case you are going second in the deck. This card just obviously really helps out. And keep in mind, you could also negate Nibiru. It's not a card that is immune to everything. You mostly hand traps. If this card was a cost, this card would be actually so much better, but it's unfortunately not. Then we have 3 copies of Junk Synchron and then 3 copies of Scorpio. These are the cards that you want to go ahead and add, but it makes it quite easy when you happen to have, you have tuning, you have your reinforcement of the army, and your junk converter to go ahead and add 1 synchron monster. I was also debating on quick draw, but the extra deck room is quite tight. But I also wanted to mention another really good combo that a lot of people have been doing right now in the game is instant fusion instantly for Millennium. If I can spell it, Millennium. Wait, let's type in eyes restrict. Is it eyes dash restrict? Space, okay. Anyways, this card over here for instant fusion basically will force your opponent to use, or they just don't use their hand trap. And with any combo based deck, this is kind of the go-to card that I've been making a lot. Not only is instant fusion great just for being able to throw out this card and then make your opponent force a negation, which you will then negate, and then you know, you'll be able to make it so they can't activate any of those monsters on the field. But it also lets you go ahead and go free. So I think Instant Fusion just becomes infinitely better with this new Master Rule, so I just wanted to go ahead and mention that. Or you can go ahead and use Thousand Eyes Restrict. Go ahead and absorb those Inspector Borders, because that card can get quite nasty very fast in a lot of different decks, but just want to mention that as a heads up. But anyways, next up we got 3 Lone Fire, which is basically more copies of Darling Cobra over here. And then we have 3 copies of the Ash Blossom, because this is one of the best hand traps right now in the game. And then we have 3 copies of Junk Converter, which is more Junk Synchron, and giving you a Junk Synchron target as well. Then we have the Clear Effector. This card just lets you go ahead and draw an additional card. And then in addition to that, a Synchro monster that uses this card as material cannot be destroyed by card effects. And then we have Spore, double copy, well, there's supposed to be one copy of Glow Bulb. I just put the other one there because in one of the builds, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, Glow Bulb was actually, you know what? I think it was already there. Okay, you know what I did? I wanted to mention it. It was already there. I think every deck. It's 1-for-1 wasn't in every one of the deck profiles, so I wanted to mention that this card is still great to go ahead and add in. So I guess it was actually 40. Yeah, anyways, it was 40 or 41. Anyways, this card doesn't count as an actual card. It just allows you to play Master Rule 5. And then we got Instant Fusion, Red Eyes Fusion, the reinforcement of the army, 3 copies of Magical Mallet. I've been saying this for such a long time. This is like the better Upstart Goblin for the most part, because it lets you cycle through cards, that you don't want to draw into. And so many Yu-Gi-Oh! Combos rely just off of like one card. If you have that one card, whatever one it is, you can go completely off. And then obviously with tuning, you have a lot of consistency for the junk. It's more so that this card you have, what, 6 copies of, basically? You're able to go ahead and cycle through, unless of course you make this first, because this one technically lets you go through another plant. So if you have 1-for-1 or something, I guess you don't have to have. It's more like 7 if you can make this first. But nonetheless, this is a very important part of the combo. So having Magical Mallet is great because you actually don't want to draw this card. And then we have 3 copies of Tuning, 1 copy of the World Legacy Succession, and 3 copies of Crossout Designator to go and stop all of those hand traps as well as impermanence. And then we have a Brilliant Fusion over here. If you want to, you could go ahead and throw in Valor. I feel like most people have just kind of outclassed Valor. There is that new card that does burn damage, and I've seen a lot of people utilize that card. So if you want to, you can go ahead and utilize that as well. But it might clog up your deck. But I think that like one copy of all of them could be great, because you never know what your opponent is going to draw. They might not have that Ash Blossom, and they might just have that Valor, so you can utilize that Crossout Designator for that. Then Brilliant Fusion, 3 copies of Impermanence. Then we got Dragon of Red Ice, the Gem Knight Fusion, and then the Mud Dragon, Ultimate Soken, Savage Dragon, Clear Wing, double copies of that. Then we have Mykiel. This is just more so if you go ahead and keep this card up, and you can reset some of your plays later in line, but more likely you've probably won. So I can honestly say, if you're interested in dropping some cards, these are probably the cards I would recommend to drop. Yeah, 2 copies of Crystal, and then 1 copy of Nat Beast, In the World Chalice, Jasmine, Needle, Fiber, or what is it, Quandax now is what it's called, and then Clothheap, and then the Protoplant Variant Anaconda. But I highly recommend you guys to put it 1-for-1 with the deck, as well as maybe double or triple Instant Fusion, because it lets you, again, go second, have a more successful turn going second into the game, as well as just making your turn 1 plays infinitely better with an automatic I stop one hand trap in addition to your plays, because you're not clogged up with that zone with the new Master Rule. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and big shouts once again to my boy StarsYGO for hooking me up with the plays. I feel like this is halfway his channel now, Kappa. But anyways, I'll leave them down below if you guys want to check them out. But thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you are new here, hit subscribe, turn on that bell so you don't miss out. I do want to do a live comm and more like slower paced one. I know most of these were wombo combos, but I'll try to upload some more Plant Synchro. I'll probably make a different variant where it's not just turn 1 instant win. I like to have some like give and take and battles with my opponent. But again, it's kind of the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh right now, at least how I feel, is so many decks are just turn 1, I slam a bunch of boss monsters, go ahead, and they just quit, man. But anyways, if you guys want to send me in other replays, feel free to go and do so. Other Plant Synchro, other Yu-Gi-Oh, new Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I'll get you guys some gameplay. I know we gotta make that Lightsworn build, and I've been putting it off with that new card that lets you excavate cards. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in, and peace!